All right, let's get right into it. I want you to think about something. What's that one thing you really, truly desire? That goal that gets you fired up, maybe even keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
And here's the real question. Do you have a clear, step-by-step plan to make that desire a reality?
That's the tricky part for so many people. They've got dreams, things they want to achieve, but the path to actually get there from wanting to having feels, I don't know, kind of hazy.
Right, exactly. And that's what we're tackling today on the Deep Dive. You, our awesome listeners, have given us some really fascinating material, and it all boils down to this. How do we turn wanting something into actually having it, especially when it comes to wealth and
Yeah.
success?
Yeah, how do we bridge that gap?
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to extract the core principles, the actionable advice, so you walk away with a solid plan to build your own roadmap to success.
Sounds good. And speaking of roadmaps, you brought up a classic in this arena, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This book has been a guiding light for so many people, promising to reveal a secret formula for success. A formula Hill developed by studying incredibly successful people, learning their habits, their mindsets.
Right. The book is jam-packed with wisdom from those who have truly made it. And we know our listeners are a diverse group, different backgrounds, different levels of experience.
For sure.
So we're committed to keeping things clear, engaging, and most importantly, useful. We're ditching the complex jargon, just straightforward insights you can use right away. So where does this secret formula begin?
Well, it all starts with desire, but not just passively wishing for something. Hill talks about the power of a definite purpose.
Okay, a definite purpose. What does that look like in real life?
A great example is Edwin C. Barnes. His big goal was to become a business associate of Thomas Edison.
Wow, aiming high.
And here's the key. Barnes didn't just want to work for Edison, he wanted to work with him as an equal. He had a very specific vision.
But he didn't exactly have a direct line to Edison, did he? He couldn't even afford a train ticket.
Yeah, he was facing some major obstacles, but his desire was so strong that he didn't let those things stop him. He actually hitched a ride on a freight train just to reach Edison's office.
Wow, talk about determination.
And even when Edison initially offered him a minor role, Barnes stuck to his guns. He
Yeah.
kept showing up, proving himself, until finally his persistence paid off, and he became a key part of Edison's team.
That shows the kind of focus Hill is talking about. It wasn't just a fleeting thought for Barnes. It was this driving force that pushed him to take action.
Right, he was all in.
He basically burned all his bridges to any other path.
That's a great way to put it. And Hill uses this powerful image of the Chicago fire. Many merchants after the fire were ready to move on, but one guy, Marshall Field, stood in the ruins of his store and declared he'd rebuild right there, an even grander store no matter what.
Wow, that's incredible, that unwavering commitment to not even entertain the idea of quitting. That's the difference between a wish and a burning desire.
It is, totally. One is passive, the other is a fire in your belly. You're not hoping things will work out, you're convinced you will make them work out.
Okay, so we've got this intense desire. Now what? How do we turn that into something real?
Next comes faith. Hill calls it the eternal elixir that gives life to our thoughts and is the basis for accumulating wealth.
Faith. And when Hill says faith, it's not necessarily about religion, right? It's about believing in yourself and your ability to achieve your goals.
Absolutely. It's trusting your plan and believing in your ability to see it through. And a powerful tool to strengthen this faith is autosuggestion.
Autosuggestion. It's basically talking to yourself, but in a very specific way, right?
Right. It works because you come to believe whatever you consistently repeat to yourself, whether it's true or not at first. So if you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, you'll start to believe it. But if you constantly affirm your abilities and visualize your success,
Your mind starts to accept it as truth.
exactly, you're essentially programming your mind for success with positive messages. And Hill gives us a self-confidence formula to do this.
You break down those steps.
Sure. First, believe you can achieve your goal and demand persistent action from yourself. Second, dedicate at least 30 minutes daily to thinking about your goal. Third, write a clear, concise statement defining your main purpose.
Okay, getting specific.
Fourth, create a step-by-step plan to reach that purpose. Fifth, write down both the statement and the plan. And finally, read this aloud twice every day, once before bed and once when you wake up.
Reading it aloud, that's a great way to really internalize it.
It is. Repetition and hearing your own voice saying these affirmations bypasses your conscious mind and speaks directly to your subconscious. And he'll highlight something important. The subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between positive and negative thoughts. It just acts on what you consistently feed it.
So if we're constantly dwelling on doubts and fears, our subconscious will amplify those, just like it would positive affirmations.
Exactly. He tells the story about Joseph Grant, a bank official who made a mistake and became consumed by fear. He was convinced he'd be fired, ruined. He repeated those negative thoughts so much that his own life.
That's a powerful reminder of how our thoughts can shape our reality and the importance of consciously choosing positive ones. So we have the desire, we're nurturing our faith. What's next?
Next comes specialized knowledge and organized planning. Hill makes it clear. Knowledge by itself isn't power. It becomes powerful when it's organized into a practical plan aimed at a definite goal.
So you could be a walking encyclopedia, but without knowing how to apply that knowledge or what purpose it serves, it's not truly useful.
Right. He brings up Henry Ford. Ford didn't have a lot of formal education, but he became hugely successful. His power came from pursuing and organizing very specific knowledge about building affordable cars and then acting on that knowledge with precise plans.
And the world is so different now than when Hill wrote this book. He talks about the rise of specialization.
Absolutely. In today's world, you need to be an expert in your field. Just having a general understanding isn't enough, and that means continuously learning. Successful people are always expanding their knowledge long after formal education is over.
So it's not about getting that degree and calling it a day. It's about always seeking out knowledge relevant to your goals. And then, like you said, organizing that knowledge into actionable steps.
Precisely. For those marketing their skills, Hill introduces the personal service analysis. It's planning how you'll present your knowledge and talents to employers or clients. He even suggests creating a brief of qualifications.
Like a lawyer preparing a case.
Exactly. It should detail your qualifications, explain why you're the perfect fit, highlight your experience, and even show you understand the employer's needs and challenges. Hill even suggests offering to work on probation to prove your worth.
Wow, that's a bold move.
It is, but if you're confident in your abilities, it can be the key to landing the job. It lowers the risk for the employer and gives you a chance to shine.
Makes sense. So we've got the knowledge, the plan. Now, how do we put it all into action?
This is where the mastermind principle comes in. This is about coordinating knowledge and effort in harmony with others to achieve a specific goal. Hill believes no one can reach huge success alone. We need the support and cooperation of others.
So it's about building a team, a network of like-minded people who bring their own skills and energy to the table.
Exactly. Ideally, every major plan you have should be a collaboration with your mastermind group. You might have the initial ideas, but they should be examined, refined, and agreed upon by the group. This kind of teamwork generates so much more power than individuals working alone.
It's like that saying, two heads are better than one, but amplified by shared purpose and trust.
Right, and it goes beyond just practical skills. Hill dives into the idea of thought energy. Coordinated minds working in harmony generate more mental force than they would separately. He compares it to batteries.
Like a group of connected batteries creates a stronger current than a single battery.
Exactly. So being around positive, ambitious people amplifies your mental energy and effectiveness. Hill points to Henry Ford's relationships with brilliant minds like Edison and Firestone as examples of this.
It's fascinating to think about how our connections can influence not just our resources, but our very thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're cultivating our desire, strengthening our faith, gathering knowledge, planning, and collaborating. What's next?
Next comes imagination. Hill describes it as the workshop of the mind where all plans are formed. It's how we turn our desires into concrete actions.
So imagination isn't just for artists and dreamers, it's a crucial tool for achieving anything.
Exactly. And he makes a distinction between two types of imagination. Synthetic imagination involves arranging familiar ideas in new ways, while creative imagination is where brand new ideas and insights come from.
So synthetic imagination is more about problem solving and innovation with existing knowledge, while creative imagination is those aha moments that lead to breakthroughs.
Precisely. He says that while creative imagination is incredibly powerful, synthetic imagination is what you'll likely use most, especially at the start. It's taking what you know and finding new ways to apply it towards your goal.
He gives some captivating examples of the power of ideas, like the story of the old doctor who sold the formula for Coca-Cola. It wasn't just about the ingredients, it was the idea itself that held the value.
Right. And there's the story of Dr. Frank Gonzalez, who had a vision for a new college, and through a single, powerful sermon centered on his million-dollar idea, he managed to secure the funding to make it happen.
It really shows how a vision fueled by imagination can become reality. It's like Hill says, ideas can become financial success, through a clear purpose and well-defined plans.
Absolutely. Imagination bridges the gap between what you want and what you can achieve. It's where you brainstorm, strategize, and visualize success before it becomes real.
We've imagined our plans, visualized success. Now comes the execution. And that means making decisions and sticking to them.
Definitely. Decisive action is critical. Hill talks about the importance of making quick, firm decisions. He says that's a defining characteristic of successful leaders. He contrasts this with indecision, which can hold people back.
Indecision can be so paralyzing. You get stuck analyzing and overthinking, never taking action.
It can be. And Hill observes that the world makes way for the person who acts decisively. Indecision creates uncertainty, and uncertainty often leads to fear.
And along with decision-making comes persistence. You can decide to chase a goal, but you need the strength and determination to see it through, especially when things get tough.
Absolutely. Hill says no one is truly defeated until they give up in their own mind. He gives examples like James J. Hill and Henry Ford, who both faced setbacks but never gave up. Instead, they adapted their plans, learned, and eventually succeeded.
It's crucial to see setbacks as temporary, not a sign to quit, but a chance to reassess and try a new approach.
Exactly. Hill says that in every defeat, there's often a hidden opportunity if you're persistent enough to look for it. He defines persistence as the sustained effort to maintain faith. And several things encourage persistence: a definite purpose, strong desire, self-reliance, detailed plans, accurate knowledge, cooperation, willpower, and the habit of persistence itself.
So it's not just about pushing forward blindly. Persistence is fueled by all these other principles. And he mentions this intriguing concept of a hidden guide.
Yeah, he suggests there might be a force that places obstacles in our path to test our resolve. Those who persist through these challenges are ultimately rewarded. It's almost like a natural selection process for success.
We talked about the mastermind principle earlier.
Yeah.
Hill revisits it later and emphasizes its importance for achieving real power.
Right. He reiterates that true power is organized and intelligently directed knowledge. The mastermind group helps create and direct that knowledge. It's essential not just for planning, but for providing the collective power to turn those plans into reality.
He goes deeper into the concept of thought energy, explaining how minds working in harmony generate more mental force than individuals working alone.
Like we talked about with the batteries, a group of brains working together, focused on a common goal, create a much stronger current of thought energy.
And he uses Henry Ford as an example again, highlighting how his close associations with other brilliant minds amplified his own abilities and contributed to his success. It's not just about getting advice, it's a dynamic exchange of energy and ideas.
Precisely. Hill even suggests that you start to take on the thinking patterns of those you closely associate with. So choosing your mastermind group is incredibly important.
Now, onto a topic that sometimes causes confusion. The mystery of sex transmutation. This isn't about any physical transformation, is it?
Not at all. Hill uses sex energy to describe a powerful force present in all of us, the very essence of creative energy, which he believes is the source of all genius. He clarifies that having a strong sex drive doesn't automatically make you a genius. True genius comes from stimulating the mind to tap into imagination, and he believes sex energy is a primary stimulus for this.
So it's about redirecting that powerful energy and channeling it into creative pursuits and ambitious goals.
Exactly. It's transforming that raw energy into heightened ambition, creativity, and drive. It takes self-control and willpower, but the rewards can be enormous.
He mentions people who use things like alcohol or drugs to try and stimulate creativity. But he doesn't endorse that at all, right?
Definitely not. He gives examples like Poe and Burns, but makes it clear that's a dangerous and unsustainable approach. He's focused on harnessing that natural energy in a healthy way. He even talks about practical applications like developing a strong personal magnetism, which can be very valuable in sales or leadership.
And he touches on the importance of love and romance as positive emotions that can fuel achievement and create balance.
Yes, he says love can act as a balancing force. When love, romance, and transmuted sex energy work together, they become a powerful force for achieving great things.
Now let's talk about the subconscious mind. We discussed its role in autosuggestion, but how does it fit into this overall picture of success?
Hill says that all 13 principles he outlines are meant to help us reach and influence our subconscious mind, but it requires consistent effort and developing the right mental habits. The subconscious mind is always working, whether we're aware of it or not. and it can absorb negative thoughts just as easily as positive ones.
So if we aren't actively feeding it positive thoughts and visualizations, it becomes vulnerable to fear and doubt.
Exactly. And Hill points out that the subconscious responds strongly to thoughts mixed with emotion. That's why just mechanically repeating affirmations might not be as effective as when those affirmations are charged with feeling and belief.
He provides a list of positive and negative emotions, highlighting how the negative ones often creep in effortlessly, while the positive ones need to be consciously cultivated.
Right. Fear, jealousy, anger, these can take root easily. But desire, faith, love, enthusiasm, those often need deliberate effort and practices like autosuggestion.
And then there's the fascinating idea of the sixth sense, which Hill equates to creative imagination. He says most people rarely use this faculty consciously.
True. He suggests that those who do use it consciously are the ones we consider geniuses. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It becomes more alert and receptive to new ideas.
He tells stories about Luther Burbank and Dr. Elmer R. Gates, both of whom used their creative imagination for groundbreaking innovations. Burbank talked about entering a meditative state to connect with a source of superior intelligence, and Gates had a process for sitting for ideas that was so successful, companies paid him for his insights.
These examples show that creative imagination isn't some random gift. It's a skill you can develop and direct.
And Hill makes the point that ideas that come from this creative faculty can be more accurate and innovative than those based solely on our past experiences, which might be limited or even flawed.
It's about tapping into a deeper level of intelligence that goes beyond our rational understanding. Now, you can't talk about success without addressing its biggest obstacle, fear. Hill calls these the 6 ghosts of fear.
Fear is a powerful emotion, and it can really sabotage our efforts. But Hill reminds us that it's a state of mind, and therefore something we can learn to control. He explains how indecision leads to doubt, which then turns into fear.
And this process often happens so gradually that we don't even realize how much fear is controlling us.
He lays out 6 basic fears: fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Let's go through them one by one. He says the fear of poverty is the most destructive.
It is a deep-seated fear that can stem from a primal instinct for survival. It can manifest as indifference, doubt, worry, and procrastination. And he observes that a lack of resources can actually chip away at a person's self-worth.
Then there's the fear of criticism, which he says destroys initiative and creativity, undermines individuality, and prevents people from taking risks.
Yeah.
He points out that this fear is often instilled in childhood through constant criticism.
Yeah, it can make people play it safe and never reach their full potential because they're too afraid of what others might think.
Then there's the fear of ill health, which can be pretty powerful. He even brings up hypochondria and how worrying about illness can actually make us sick. He even tells a story about an experiment where suggestion seemed to induce illness in someone.
It really highlights the strong connection between our mind and body. And he tells a story about a man whose health anxieties were alleviated by finding love.
The fear of loss of love. He suggests this fear is more common in women due to their understanding of relationships and men's nature.
Yes, he talks about certain vulnerabilities in this area of life.
Then the fear of old age, which he links to the fear of poverty in later life, and negative societal views on aging.
Right. The fear of becoming destitute and dependent on others in old age can be paralyzing. And he also points out how some religious teachings about the afterlife can add to this anxiety.
And finally, the fear of death. He calls it a useless fear based on a misunderstanding of life and death. He emphasizes that death is a natural transformation, not an absolute end.
He encourages us to accept death and not let it prevent us from living fully. He even suggests that having a burning desire to achieve something meaningful can help overcome the fear of death.
And he makes it very clear. All these fears can be overcome by making definite decisions, taking control of your mind, and refusing to let fear dictate your life.
Exactly. Indecision fuels these fears. When you make a firm decision about how you'll approach each of these anxieties, you take away their power. He gives examples of deciding not to worry about poverty, not to be affected by criticism, and so on.
And to overcome those mental ghosts, he stresses the importance of self-awareness, recognizing our own tendencies toward laziness, negativity, and susceptibility to discouraging influences.
Self-awareness is key. He recommends creating positive habits to counteract those fears and protecting your mind from negativity. He even provides a list of questions for self-analysis to help identify weaknesses and areas for improvement.
Now, the section on the miracle of organized capital might seem a bit out of place in a book about achieving wealth through mindset.
It might, But here, Hill takes a wider view. He moves from the individual to the role of capital in society. He uses the example of a New York City breakfast to show the complex systems of production, transportation, and distribution that are all powered by organized capital.
We often take these things for granted, but when you think about the vast amount of coordination and investment needed for something as simple as a cup of coffee, it's amazing.
It really is. He points out that without organized capital, even the basic necessities of life wouldn't be possible. He defines capitalists as those who organize and direct this capital.
And he's very clear about his belief that America's freedoms and opportunities are built on a capitalistic system.
He is. He argues that demanding wealth without providing value or trying to ignore the laws of economics ultimately leads to negative consequences.
And then he brings it back to the importance of decisive action, using powerful historical examples.
Yes, he uses the signing of the Declaration of Independence as an example of a group of people making a bold life or death decision. They knew the risks, but they stood firm in their convictions.
It really puts our everyday decisions into perspective. The courage it took to make that decision is incredible.
It is. And he also tells the story of John Hancock and Samuel Adams demanding the removal of British troops from Boston, a turning point in the fight for American independence. He highlights the faith and courage behind their decision.
And he connects this back to the mastermind principle, identifying Adams, Lee, and Hancock as an early example of this powerful alliance. Their coordinated efforts, like the Committees of Correspondence, demonstrate the power of teamwork in achieving seemingly impossible goals.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway from Think and Grow Rich?
It's the understanding that achieving your dreams and becoming truly rich in every sense of the word is a process. It's not about luck. It's about intention, belief, planning, collaboration, and the courage to overcome your fears.
And that Secret Hill talks about it's not a magic formula. It's something each of us has to discover by embracing these principles and applying them consistently.
Exactly. The book gives you the tools, but you have to use them. When you read it with these insights in mind, you can start to unlock that secret for yourself.
That's a great point. Maybe true wealth isn't just about money. Maybe it's about cultivating a mindset of courage, faith, and self-mastery.
Right.
What does riches really mean to you? Think about it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.